Next question. Republicans, and I thought this was an amazing part of this documentary and so fucking cool. And like, part of me really admires Jordan for having the balls to do this.
Yeah, break this part down.
Okay. So the line about Republicans buy sneakers too, that we've all heard about Michael Jordan, right? Comes from a North Carolina election where a guy was running for governor.
Yes.
I believe his name is Helms, and he was running against this guy named Gant. Helms was like this fucking racist white guy. He was running for his 4th term, and Gant was a black guy, right? Coming up, I guess that would have been his first, time as governor, et cetera. And Gant, I guess, asked for Jordan's endorsement to do like a commercial.
Yeah.
And Jordan said on a bus or like on the plane, like with a bunch of other players there, he goes, Republicans buy sneakers too.
Yeah.
Right? These 2 episodes are really interesting because you get into Jordan's business mind a little bit.
Yeah.
There was the whole like Reebok thing.
Yeah.
So like Reebok had sponsored the Olympic jerseys and there was a big Reebok logo on the jersey and Jordan didn't want to wear it because it had
Olympic
it on.
warm-ups where you get the gold medal has a big Reebok logo over the chest.
And if you watch the gold medal celebration.
Well, they told him Reebok tried to say, if you don't wear this jacket, Jordan didn't want to wear it. Like, if you don't wear this jacket,
you don't accept the medal.
You don't accept the medal. And then there's a clip of Jordan in the car saying, this is the guy, whatever the guy's name is, he's a dickhead. They think they're going to break me? Nah, I got some shit for their ass. They said, I got some for these motherfuckers. So then go ahead at the medal ceremony.
If you look at Jordan in the medal ceremony, he's wearing the jacket because all they said is you have to wear the jacket. And draped over that jacket is a massive American flag that just happens to be covering the Reebok.
And how do you hate on that?
You can't tell him not to have the American flag on him. And we know what he's doing with the flag, but the public doesn't really know.
Yeah.
He's kind of using the flag, if you will. But it's fire. And it goes into Jordan's brain. Like, Jordan is out here maximum, like, alpha competitor, and he's going to get what he wants by any means necessary.
And he looked at that, I'm sure, as some kind of competition. You think you can get me?
You think you can tell me what to do? Fuck no.
You're not going to be me.
Wait, why'd I get into that?
The election.
Oh, yeah, so the election. So apparently they ask him for the endorsement, and he goes, listen, I don't, and I'm paraphrasing here, he's like, I don't know anything about that. I'm not going to speak on something I don't know about, right? I don't know what the guy stands for. I don't know his politics, etc. But I will make a contribution to his campaign. And he makes a contribution to his campaign, his being the black guy, again, which is left out of the story, which I fucking like. And he goes, I never looked at myself as an activist.
Yeah.
I looked at myself as a basketball player, and that was my singular focus. And the way that I make change is by example. It is really, really interesting because there's always this pressure on black people, and Barack Obama summarizes it perfectly on the show, right? He goes, that black people are looked at as great crossover stars as long as they don't get too political.
Right.
As long as they don't ruffle too many feathers, etc. They're universally accepted. And the second you get into politics and start becoming an activist, then you could separate. Everybody in San Francisco loves Colin Kaepernick, even when he's not playing great, until all of a sudden he starts taking a knee, and that's, who the fuck is this guy? He can't play ball, this, that, the other. I thought it was incredibly brave of Michael Jordan to do that. You know what's going to come with it. You know the cost of it. And I know there's a lot of people listening right now. It's like, you have a responsibility to stand up for your race, to stand up for these things. And I agree with you. I completely agree with you. I'll never be able to understand it as I stand here as like a white guy and I'm coming from a majority where I don't need to every second I get represent whiteness. That being said, does he have a greater impact as Michael Jordan, the superstar, than Michael Jordan, the activist? I think so. Are there any activists in his era? I'm not talking about Martin Luther King. I'm not talking about Malcolm X. I'm talking about in Michael Jordan era and afterwards. Are there any activists that have had the global impact Michael Jordan has had?
You could argue Muhammad Ali, and that's the guy.
His era, though.
In the 80s, no, I don't know. Who was really political in the 80s? I don't know what athlete.
I mean,
was political. Now you would say LeBron.
Everybody, Jesse Jackson. I mean, there's tons of
athlete, like celebrity-wise. It wasn't a time.
I'm not talking about celebs. I'm talking about any activist, politician, etc.
Jesse Jackson, I guess.
Did he create as much change?
Oh, no. Nobody created change that Jordan created.
So at the end of the day, if the goal is create change, and he goes about it by not being political and potentially alienating half the country, if he simply just goes about, I'm going to go show by example what I can do. It's like, You don't think that there was a few kids of racists that grew up idolizing Michael Jordan and had a really hard time hating black people because their fucking hero, their god, was this black guy?
I would argue you could find it. And Jordan, again, is a brilliant guy. He could find the way to be like, this guy's just whatever. We just can't stand for racism. This guy said some racist things.
It's a little weird, though, because Jordan has the reputation of not being on really the side of the people. He's always just been like, hey, all I care about is making money. And I thought he's always stayed out of politics, has never really donated, never gives back that much.
He doesn't want to alienate people by speaking. He'll donate money.
Behind the scenes.
And that's why the black community kind of like looked down. I'm like, yo, you can bring about so much change with your power, and you refuse to do it because you don't want to hurt
Andrew's
yourself.
argument is, and this may be Jordan's too, I make the most change by not alienating people with opinions that could alienate them. I'm going to play basketball at the highest level, supreme athlete, the greatest ever, quite possibly, and then you will worship me, and then you will probably, hopefully, rethink some of your views. Hopefully.
I got a comic friend, and I won't say his name, but he happens to be Mormon, right? Mm-hmm. Devout Mormon. He's fucking hilarious, right? Only reason I'm not saying his name because I don't know if he would want me to say this publicly, right? But he never speaks about being Mormon. He just goes out there and tells fucking hilarious jokes.
Clean, hilarious
jokes. Mm. And I asked him, I was like, why don't you ever talk about it? Like, you could be the biggest Mormon guy ever. Like, they would come out for you, and like, this would be... He goes, I do more for the community by not talking about it. I go, what do you mean? He goes, I normalize it. When people just come out and see me and they don't feel like it has to be a Mormon thing, it's just, hey, I'm going to see a comic. The next time you see a Mormon person, you're not going to look at them like some weird cult.
You're not going to say, that's a Mormon. What's a Mormon? I've never met a Mormon. You're like, oh, that dude. Oh, yeah, I think he's Mormon. That's the idea. Yeah.
And look, whether it works or not, who knows? But it is one way of going about it. And we'll never know if Michael Jordan was politically activated, if he would have created more change, because we can't go back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it is undeniable that he has created change and has created... I mean, he was the most beloved figure in the world. Mm-hmm. A black American man, the most beloved figure in the world.
Yeah.
There has to be a certain amount of progress attached to that.
For sure.
I'm sure it's attached to it, but it's still without him doing anything. So it's like, it's just the fact that he was such a great player and people idolize him, and that's what does it. He's not actually doing anything. I don't
know one way or the other, and I don't think we can know. To Andrew's point, his whole thing, when he even talked about the marketing of his sneakers, essentially he goes, all I wanted to focus on is being the greatest player ever. Mm-hmm. That was the marketing for my sneakers. So I could, and that's sneakers, that's directly his bottom line, his main source of income.
Yeah.
So you could also argue his logic would be, if I want to make any change, so societally, the best thing I can do is focus on my craft. And that will bleed into everything else. He was singularly focused on his craft, and that fed everything else. And he says that exact line. Now, the one thing I thought was interesting, because I do look at it like, you could have said something. But one thing that I noticed was the only one who seemed to have like an understanding of what he was going through was Barack. Barack gave him some sympathy, and he said something like, Michael was still figuring out who he was as a man or something like that. And that's a lot to figure out at such a young age. Barack is the only... there are 3 people on earth who would understand what Michael Jordan was going through at that time. It's Barack, it's Michael Jordan, it's maybe Oprah.
And low-key, Barack, and I don't know enough about Oprah to say, but like Barack, I'm sure black people, the second he got into office, want him to get in office and be like, all right, first thing we're doing, everybody gets the 40 acres and a mule.
That's what we wanted.
You know what I mean?
Like, we didn't get it.
I mean, Patrice had that funny joke about everybody gets a white slave.
I thought I would have a white slave by now.
You know what I mean? Like, and now, he also knew he couldn't do that because the biggest fear of all those white people that weren't going to vote for him was the second he gets in office, everybody's getting a white slave.
Yeah.
So he understood that responsibility. And I would say by him being black and being president of the United States of America, that alone, even if he does nothing else, that alone has such an impact on little kids growing up, realizing that they could reach the highest, level of power in the entire world if they want to. Like that itself, showing is oftentimes better than telling, because telling, while we agree and it's sweet and it's nourishing, you know what I mean? It's like you go to a church service or any of these things. I've been to plenty of the churches and I feel great when I walk out, right? It's like candy. It's like you chew on it. You're like, I feel positive. I want to hug people. Everything's great. And then a few hours later, you're like, okay, that goes away. Maybe the next day you forgot all about it. Showing doesn't go away. Telling goes away. Showing is always there. I can't be president of the United States. That guy was. Why can't you? Well, it's different. That guy was.